This pop-up is based on a snowflake, and again I suggest you print off the guideline sheet in order to show you where to cut and where to fold, and you've also then got the guide to show you how it all comes together. This one looks quite complicated, and in fact when it comes to the folding it's probably easier than some of the other ones we may have looked at. I think the trickiest thing here is just really the cutting, and only because there's so much of it to do, but the final result looks very spectacular. Again, you can use a ruler. I must admit I do favour just freehand cutting. I think it just gives it that little bit of edge. They still look beautiful, but it still has a sort of natural feel to it as well, but the choice is yours. I'll be using a craft knife for this as usual. No real things to watch out for, except be careful when you cut that the two end parts here which lift the whole pop-up do not cut through. They are valley folds on either end there, and there's two valley folds here, but for the actual cutting just be aware of that, and also be aware that we cut top and bottom and these little segments come out, but there's folds either side here as well, so you don't want to go cutting through there. And finally there's two cut lines in here, so we can just pop out the center of the snowflake, as you can see in the little diagram. Okay, so once you've done that, print off your master sheet and you'll see the lighter guidelines here, and as I said, you can either cut with a ruler or freehand. It really is up to you, but the key thing is not to cut into those important areas that I've just mentioned. So I'll go ahead now and just cut this one out, and then we'll come back and look at the scoring and the folding of it. I've now cut out the shape, and the inner sections here just come away, which leaves us the darker areas, and that gives a little bit more detail to the snowflake. So the next job to do is to mark in our score lines, and I'm going to use my craft knife and use the other end of the blade just to put a nice sharp score into there. If you follow this line, you'll notice that the blue one on the side doesn't go into there. It is important, if you can just check when you're doing it, that you don't go over one part that will then create a crease into it that you don't want. And if you're unsure, just come up to the edge there. So those are the main score lines going through there, two at the side, and we've got one here and another one down this side here, and then one there and one there. And so it really is, when it comes to the folding, quite a simple setup. I'll just pop those in. The nicer and crispier the score lines, I think the easier the folding goes together. And there we have it. Now there's two more in the middle there. Before I forget, let's do those now. Funnily enough, this is probably this little section in the middle. Just adds a little bit of dimension to the snowflake. Once you've made it, it's possibly the hardest part to make, but we'll come and look at that in a moment. Okay, that's our main shape. It's scored. So the first thing I'm going to do is just lift it up and just gently tease it over, turn it over, and we can see that the score line comes through. Resting it on my finger, you can see that that score line comes through, and then when I've got it there, just give a little bit of pinch just to capture it. This one is particularly exciting to make. You'll find that the bits of snowflake sort of want to pop out here, there and everywhere, but don't worry, just take your time and work on it. It'll all eventually come together for you. There we go, just pinch that there. And now the centre of the whole snowflake, we'll put a little bit of a pinch onto that, and then open it up. Now comes the tricky bit, as normal, is just sort of pulling the whole thing together. You'll notice if I do it on this half first, we've got our score lines there. That's a valley fold, a mountain fold and a valley fold. At this point I'm going to make sure that that snowflake is free to come out, that particular section. And again, there's a little, oops, just grab my craft knife, a few sections there, always at the corners. causing a few problems, but there we go. And just make sure that's nice and free, because this is the part that's going to lift up, as indeed all of it should be free at this stage. So it's worth going around and just checking on this particular half that everything's going to come up for you, and it is now. So the trick here, popping it down onto my craft surface, I'm just pulling onto that end of the snowflake, up it comes, if you can see there, and then a pinch onto that part, and that's causing a crease now, a nice little valley fold in that part there. So you can see it's all sort of coming together, it's rising up and out, and then as that's coming up, remember we've got two valley folds here, there and there, so at this point if we can define those a little bit more, that will help. I said it seems a bit awkward, we've got little bits of snowflake trying to get in the way, but take your time, get a nice deep crisp crease on there, turn it back over, release all the parts, and up it comes now. And I'm just going to just bend that over towards me here and put a bit of crease in there and to that one there, and there we go, that's that half. You can see now how it's starting to rise up out of the page. So it's simply a case of repeating it on this side. Now sometimes it's quite, if you just pop a ruler in, something like this, up to that valley fold, you can push it from behind, and that can help. Can you see how I'm using my ruler just to push it up and over onto there? So if you can get an instrument in like that and then just pop it over, that might help you as well at times. That's our snowflake back to front, but you can see all the basic shapes are in there, and now this is ready to fold. Now I haven't done the centre bit yet, but we'll come back to that. I think the important thing is just making sure this is going to work. So I'm going to do one half at a time, put that into there, gently lower it and put a little bit of squeeze in, but don't fully commit until you've turned it round and made sure that this second side is definitely closing properly. If I can hold that up to the camera for you now, you can see as I close it, it's quite nice to see what's going on, because then you know if you've missed anything and it's folding the wrong way. That looks fine to me. So the next thing to do is just the inner part here, and that simply is a reverse. As that comes out, those are popping back. This just will pop out as a reverse. I love this. It does get fiddly, but there we go. I'm going to get my craft knife in under there and just tease that up. Once I can get that section going, push down under there and up there. We can see there she blows, a little bit of pinch, and I think we've got it. So back again here, start to bend it and then pull that one out. If you can see here, I'm holding it there. I'm just going to get it with my fingers now and give that final little squeeze that it needs. Now what I haven't actually spoken about are these fold lines here. They're kind of coming around naturally. We've scored those, but they're an important part because we can see the structure. But there we go, that's the snowflake.